Welcome to Temple Talk at home. Today's reading is called Getting the Tower of Babel Backwards by Skye Jethani. Temple themes in Genesis don't end when the man and woman leave the garden, but recognizing them requires us to read the book through the cultural lens of the ancient Near East. For example, the story of the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11 is about people building a city and tower that reaches to the heavens, Genesis 11:4. When read through a modern lens, we assume the story is about people attempting to climb up to God through their own wisdom and strength. In many Protestant communities, the Tower of Babel is used to illustrate the futility and arrogance of works righteousness, the belief that we can earn our way to heaven through good behavior or hard work. While these interpretations are common and preach well to modern audiences, none of these ideas are found in the text itself. When read with an understanding of its ancient cultural context, it turns out that the people of Babel were not trying to climb up to God at all. What our Bible translates as tower might better be understood as a ziggurat, a stepped pyramid common in ancient Babylonian culture that functioned as a temple. Remember, throughout the ancient Near East, temples were built on high places in order to connect the heavens and the earth. In plains without mountains, like the one described in Genesis 11:2, people would create artificial mountains to function as sacred high places instead. But here's the important part. In the ancient world, these high places, pyramids, and ziggurats were not built so that people could ascend to a deity in the heavens, but to allow the deity to descend from the heavens to the earth. In other words, the Tower of Babel story is not about people trying to reach heaven through their own efforts. Rather, it's about people building a temple so that a god will come down and dwell in their city, because possessing a temple, the dwelling place of a god, was very beneficial to a community, both reputationally and financially. This is why the people of Genesis 11 meant when they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves." Having a temple would put Babel on the map, create trade and commerce, and provide security and stability. Without a temple and its many benefits, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. Therefore, Genesis 11 isn't about people wanting to reach God, it's about people wanting to control access to God. Rather than fitting some relatively modern Protestant ideas about works versus grace, or going to heaven when you die, the Tower of Babel is an echo of the sin of Adam and Eve in the garden. Not content with their priestly calling to represent God in the garden temple he had created, they followed the serpent's advice and sought to take control for themselves. Likewise, in Genesis 11, the people attempt to reclaim humanity's priestly vocation, but on their terms, not God's. They construct a temple to bring God down to them so that they can be in control, in order to make their name great. Therefore, just as God cursed Adam and Eve's rebellion and exiled them from the garden temple, he also frustrates the attempt of the people at Babel to make a new temple by scattering them to distant lands. Like the sin in the garden, the sin of Babel is still evident today whenever people try to use God to control access to him or for their benefit. The world is full of towers of Babel. Religious sanctuaries, cathedrals, shrines, high places, and megachurches claiming that God's presence has come down to dwell in the ministry they've built. And if you come to their Babel, they promise a transcendent experience mediated by a leader, preacher, artists, ritual, music, or guru. But in the end, it may not be God's name they're trying to make great, but their own.